Yo, what is good, everybody? Hope everybody's been good. I know it's been a while, but especially with the draft coming on, I wanted to make this video earlier, but I got tied up with some things. Had to do some things, get some things situated and stuff like that. So we gonna go ahead and make a last minute shebang on the draft and who I think is gonna pick who, and if I think some trades are gonna happen. We gonna hit on all that, but also the main point of this video I wanted to get on here and talk about, man, everybody knows what happened with James Pierce and Rakia Jackson, and it's just so ironically that it came out today that James Pierce got all his charges dropped. And I was in the barbershop talking to some of the old heads, and I was like, man, that's just crazy as I don't know what. I would have never done no junk like that over no woman. This and the third, blah, blah, blah. Things were said. They funny. The old heads, they be funny. But, my thing is that the fact that he got all the charges dropped, he has to go to therapy, they say, and he has to stay out of trouble for about 6 months. He got off light. He got off real light. I don't really know how everything is going to go on the NFL side now, because they're definitely probably still going to give him a suspension. Probably, most likely. Even if he's not, having any jail time or anything like that. And I'm not wishing that he should have jail time, but, we got to really go back and really look at this. We traded away our first round draft pick this year to move back up into the first round last year, to not get a cornerback, of which we also needed, but to get a defensive lineman. Cool, you got built from the inside out. That's cool, that's fine. But he was the most problematic player or in person in the draft last year. So you already knew there was going to be some issues and stuff like that. Just for it to come out, then boom, first year, he has a, rookie of the year, type performance the entire year. And then in the off season, he goes and do some crazy stuff like this. For that man to only get basically a slap on the wrist, like, he should be thanking everybody that's around him, thanking her. I'm not going to get on to her, because at the end of the day, that's crazy. But I just think the situation could have been avoided. But, like I said, I definitely think the NFL is going to go ahead and still give him a little slap on the wrist. Might not be a whole year suspension like it was probably going to be. Probably going to be more like a 4, maybe 5 game suspension at this point. Maybe 6, depending on, how they feeling. I don't think it's as bad as I think one of the worst ones that was recent was, what's my boy name? Not AJ Brown. Antonio, with the threatening text. And he got 8 games. I don't think it's as bad. Hand to hand type deal. But I still think he might get 4 games for sure. Y'all let me know what y'all think, how y'all feel about the situation. I know a lot of y'all, ain't really banging with it because y'all feel like he basically just got a slap on the wrist. But, as a Falcons fan, I'm just happy that he's going to be on the field at some point this year, because we are going to need him. And that means that we don't have to go and, make maneuvers and stuff like that in the draft. We can kind of focus on what we really need. And I really just hope that he, learns from this situation, comes back next year, honestly, for the rest of his career, and don't do no crazy stuff else. Like, you got a slap on the wrist this time. Next time, it's probably going to be raps for you. And he need to make sure that he understands that. But that was just crazy breaking news for the day. But we're going to go ahead and get into this draft. Like I said, I'm going to pick who I think that they're going to pick, but I'm also going to, like I said, make some trades and stuff like that. I'm gonna say I might give two for a two team or for a team because you know analysts, you hearing what they saying, you hearing what people need. I'm going based off of need, but I also gotta understand I'm not an analyst. I gotta pay attention to what they talking about too. And from what they saying, certain things could go certain ways. I'm still gonna go with a lot of my picks about what I think a team really needs and stuff like that though. But for the Raiders, we ain't even really finna talk too much. They going Fernando. They gonna keep it moving with Fernando. Fernando's gonna be a good quarterback in the NFL. And I think he's probably the quarterback in this class that's like the most ready to go ahead and start at the moment. I don't think they are because they went and got Kirk, but at the end of the day, I think that he's the most ready to start quarterback in this draft. The Jets, I think they should pick David Bailey. I know that they're having like a whether they should pick Reeves over Bailey type deal. Reeves is more of a project, especially with him being off ball linebacker and he's more outside linebacker, and you can kind of move him into that defensive end type deal. He didn't play it a whole bunch. You did see the production when he was at Ohio State, which is, good. But at the same time, me personally, especially when you are in that Jets organization at the moment, being a Jets head coach, you gotta be able to win now. Winning later isn't gonna help you out. So David Bailey is the most ready prospect in this draft, outside of the other defensive end from Miami. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Mesidor, not Bain. I think Bain, we're gonna talk about him later, but Mesidor and David Bailey, I feel like they're the most ready to start at this moment right now. Um, with the Cardinals, now you're hearing a lot of the Cardinals might trade back. They might take Jeremiah Love, which is crazy because they literally just signed Tyler Algier. 2 years, gave him all that money and stuff like that. Got him thinking that he finna be RB1, which is, I feel bad for bro because I was always an advocate for him when he was here. It was crazy that they went and picked Bijan right after they drafted him and he went for 1,000 yards. I'm not saying that, we shouldn't have drafted Bijan. Everything kind of worked out, even though we could have went defensive lineman, outside linebacker that year, whatever it is, what it is now. I just think that Tyler's just been dealt with a lot of bad hands. But if they stay right there and they do pick, I believe if they pick at that point, they're going Reeves. I don't think that they need to pick Jeremiah Love because Jeremiah Love isn't going to be. He's not going to help your team at this point in time when you have no quarterback. And unless they're trading back up at the end of the first, first couple picks, to come back up and get Ty Simpson, which I don't think they would do. I think they pick like third or fourth in the second round. They could just pick them there. But unless you figure out that quarterback situation, Jeremiah Love ain't going to help you win football games right now immediately. I think with Arvell Reeves, he helps your football team immediately. I know they took, Isaiah Simpson a little while ago, but let's forget about the past. Let's worry about the future. And at the end of the day, he's one of the best off-ball defensive end hybrids that's coming out this year, and he's only like 21. So brother young, he got a whole bunch of time he's 21 or 20, but he's young. He got a whole bunch of time to figure out his position, where he's going to be, figure out his body and stuff like that. I think they just need to get one of the best players, especially on defense. Their defense is horrid, and just kind of build with them. But getting a dynamic running back, and we've seen it with Ashton Genty. I love Ashton Genty. I'm glad that he went to the Raiders. He gets to help out my boy Brock Bowers and figure out that offense that they got going on with Fernando and stuff like that. But their offensive line last year was garbage. And yes, he went over 1,000 yards, but it was a hard worked, 1,000 yards. And I'd rather my running back have an easier time, if you get what I'm saying. So me personally, I would go Arvell Reeves, but I have heard that people are thinking about they're thinking about trading back that pick, which would be interesting as well, because if they do trade that pick, I think it would either go to I think the only team that would make sense to trade all the way up to go get anybody at that point in time would be the Giants, in my opinion, because if the Giants end up sitting right there, they could possibly end up missing out on either Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles. And I feel like they want one of those key players. I don't think the Cowboys, and like I said, I'll get to them in a second, but I don't think the Cowboys would trade up that far. I also don't think Kansas City would really want to trade up that far. I feel like they would possibly make that trade if they didn't have so many needs on the defensive side of the ball. But like I said, I'll get to them in a second. But for that pick, I'm going Arvell Reeves. The 4th overall draft pick, the Titans. I feel like the Titans, that right there is the prime position where Jeremiah Love needs to go. Him, Cam Ward, they have a decent offensive line. Even though I know they have a defensive minded head coach, I feel like if you can kind of get, a security blanket for Cam Ward, that would work out very well. So that's what I think that they should do. I think they should go ahead and pick up Jeremiah Love and keep it moving. And they could kind of fix their defense and stuff like that in the back end, because there's a lot of good guys that are going to be in this year's draft that I definitely feel like could help out a team. At 5, I definitely feel like at this point, especially if it goes the way that I think it will go, which I don't really think teams are trying to give the Giants Sonny Styles. So definitely look out to see if he is going there. But if Sonny Styles is there, they're running to the podium and they putting it in. I definitely think that him and CJ are kind of like 1A, 1B to me. Everybody kind of like puts him up there because he's 6'3", cool. He plays safe. He's 6'3", 6'4", ran a 4.3 or a low 4.4. Like, I get all that. And he's a little bit more versatile. I get all that. But we'll see when it really comes down to it. Him, David, CJ, I feel like as 1A, 1B, 1C. To be honest, all 3 of them are really good. I feel like all of them going to make some shake. But, at this point in time, especially if the Cardinals pass up on them, if the Titans pass up on them, the Giants are going to get Sonny Styles, which, again, this is where I think a trade would possibly be happening, or why a trade would happen with the Cowboys is because they would want to get up in front of maybe the Cardinals or, with the Cardinals or with the Titans, because they need a linebacker. I feel like they would be one of the people to trade back or trade up to go get that linebacker in Sonny Styles. But I also feel like they have a lot of needs. So we'll see. The Browns. I personally, I'm still with the Shedeur train. I think that the Browns need to roll with Shedeur, see what he got, keep it moving, or roll with Deshaun. And like I said, keep it moving. A lot of analysts are talking about at like, when is their next pick? 24. They're going to be picking Todd Simpson, or they're going to be picking another quarterback in this year's draft. They pick another quarterback in this year's draft, they are a joke of a franchise. Joke. And at the end of the day, they need to figure out if they're going to roll with Shedeur or Deshaun Watson. That is it. Nothing else, nothing more. You already got 3 quarterbacks on your roster. Keep it moving. Figure out everything else that you need. And I think the thing that they kind of need more right now is weapons. They can kind of get an offensive lineman in the back half of the draft. And Carnell Tate's right there. I like Jordan Tyson more, if I'm being honest. But I feel like Carnell is going to be the more, you don't have to worry about him getting injured as much. And at the end of the day, I feel like either one of those guys would be a great fit for whatever the Browns have going on with Todd Monken. So with this one, I'm going to go with Carnell Tate. Now, Washington. If this is between Ruben Bain to me and Caleb Downs. If it was me, I understand that you build from within to the back, but Caleb Downs sitting right there, who is probably the third best player in this draft. Go ahead, turn the card in, and keep it moving. I know a lot of teams are also saying that they would probably think about possibly trading back. With again, the Chiefs would probably be the one to trade up and probably go get him, and or the Cowboys. But if it was me, I know a lot of people from DC also are saying they would rather trade back, get some more picks and stuff like that. But if it was me, I'm going Caleb Downs off the rip. Give me Caleb Downs. We're going to keep moving. With the 8th pick, the Saints. If Ruben Bain is right there, I don't really see why they wouldn't pick him. They have needs at wide receiver as well. So I could definitely see Jordan Tyson being a good spot for them to pick him up as well, especially with a new quarterback. You want to give him a nice piece to kind of make him more comfortable, and you only got one wide receiver on the roster, really, to be honest. I feel like they could really go no wrong with either one of those guys. But in our league or in that division, you kind of need to have pressure on a quarterback, especially with how we're seeing the lackluster of the quarterback situations in our division. Putting pressure on the quarterback would probably be the better thing. So I can see Ruben Bain going right there. At number 9 with Kansas City, even though I know it is keep Patrick Mahomes safe, keep him upright, make sure that you protect him, this, that, and the third. I think they have a huge hole at cornerback. And to me, their next pick isn't until 29. I feel like it'll still be a good offensive tackle that you can still put in and make a starter, or, have him be a rotational guy that could build into a starter at that point in time. So me personally, I'm saying Kansas City would go Mansour Delane right there. And I just think that would be a good fit for both of them, or a good fit for him to be able to build in that system. He'd be there for a little while, because everybody know Kansas City don't really keep their draft picks after a while. They trade them away, or not trade them away, but they let them walk after their contracts is done. So I feel like if you get a young guy who's good in man coverage, can go against any of the best, of he can go against number ones and not have too many problems and issues, in my opinion. So I feel like he's definitely going to, have his moments, but I feel like he's still a good cornerback to have on your roster, and he's the healthiest run. Now, if what's my boy name? I think his name is McCoy. Yeah. If McCoy didn't get injured, he would be the best cornerback in this draft, but he did get injured, so you got to take that into account. All right. So the Giants, we gave the Giants Sonny Styles the first pick, and right now I don't really see anybody that they would really want outside of Jordan Tyson. But I feel like one of their problems was offensive line, and I feel like this would be a prime spot for CC Malinois to go ahead and go. I definitely see a future where they go ahead and pick Jordan Tyson and keep it moving, because Jackson Dart definitely still needs weapons. And if Malik Neighbors is always getting hurt, you're going to need somebody to throw the ball to. But at the same time, that field is not a good field for wide receivers, as we can see. Like, somebody is always getting hurt. So I would go offensive lineman right there. And with CC going to the Giants at 10, we got number 11 with the Miami Dolphins. If Mansour Delane isn't there, this is where I think Jordan Tyson would end up going. Only because when I say Malik has nobody to throw the ball to. So I feel like if you get him a dynamic pass catcher on the outside, at least you got you a nice little combination that they could probably work together and see if they could build a relationship within these next 2 years, and then you can kind of see what you can do after that. And I think they have another first round. Yeah, they got another first round draft pick, so you can kind of figure out defense on the backside and or go offensive lineman as well on the backside of the draft. All right, the Cowboys. Like I said, I think that they will end up trading up to try and get Sonny Styles. If they can't get Sonny Styles, and pretty much all premium positions are gone, which would be, yeah, Sonny Styles. Yep. I think at this point, I think they would go ahead and go get McCoy, Jamal McCoy. So I think even though he's had the injuries and all of that good stuff, I still feel like he would be a nice plug and play guy, especially on the like you need a cornerback to guard somebody. And not saying that they don't have any top tier cornerbacks. They need somebody to kind of show them that we could build in this area. They just need somebody on that defense. You know what I mean? That defense is gonna be the death of the Cowboys. If they can't go get Sonny Styles, they need to go get somebody else that could be a versatile guy, play day one. As long as he can stay healthy, I feel like he'll be a good fit for them. The Rams, I'm not gonna think too hard on this. I know a lot of people are saying that they might end up trying to trade back as well, but I'm not gonna think too hard with this. I'm gonna have them going with Lemon, the other wide receiver from USC. I think that he will be a dynamic piece for Matthew. Get my boy Matthew one more ring, man. For real. Get my boy Matthew one more ring. Either that or they go with Spencer Fono. Protect my boy. They can go either one of those, but for this one, I think they should go ahead and just go get a dynamic wide receiver. The Ravens, I think they're gonna get Vega, which is the offensive lineman, who is probably another sure blue chip. He's probably the best offensive lineman in this draft, and he's just not going as high because he's not a tackle. He's more of a guard or a center, and the Ravens kind of need that at this point in time. With the Broncos, I know the Broncos, they don't really have any holes on the offense to an extent. Losing Mike Evans is going to be kind of hard to kind of get over. I don't really like Kenyon Sadiq with this pick, only because I feel like they don't really need anybody on offense, if you get what I'm saying. But I think Mansour would be a great pick right here. Not Mansour. What's my boy name? Mesidor. Sorry, Akeem Mesidor. I think Mesidor would be a good pick right there for them to kind of just re-up that defensive line, help them out on defense. And honestly, if there was another linebacker, I personally, I think CJ is the first round draft pick. I think that he could possibly end up sneaking into the first round, but until it happens, you ain't really hearing about him a whole bunch. So for right now, I'm gonna just go with defensive line. And I definitely think that they could go ahead and snag King Mesidor and keep it moving. The Jets, this is their second pick. So we went David Bailey. And right here, I know a lot of people think that they would go, they are thinking about getting a quarterback at this point in time. And maybe if Todd Simpson was there, which he is going to be there, they would go ahead and pick him. I personally don't think that they should do that. I think at this point, if Jordan Tyson is gone, Carnell Tate's gone, Makai Lemon is gone. At this point in time, I feel like they should just go ahead and get Omar Cooper. He's one of the other. He's one of probably the best toe tapping wide receivers in this draft. I feel like he would give Garrett Wilson some help on that other side, especially with Garrett Wilson openly saying, "Hey man, I need help on this." You know what I'm saying? Like he's tired of trying to carry that load on his own. So I just feel like that would be a great fit for him as well. And until they kind of figure out their quarterback situation as well, fill up the room with weapons and people on the defensive side of the ball that you think can make something happen. The Lions, I think they're gonna go ahead and get Proctor. I feel like as long as he's able to make sure that he can keep his weight down, Caden is probably still one of the best tackles in the game. And, I know a lot of people are saying that his weight's a problem, blah, blah, blah. When dude was at Alabama, he was a run stopper, he was a pass stopper, pass rush stopper. Like the dude was dynamic. So as long as he's able to maintain that, I feel like he'll be pretty good. The Vikings at 18. I think this is what I would do. I think they need to go get the defensive tackle from Clemson, Peter Woods. Peter Woods. That's who I would go get because they have a big need at defensive tackle. They brought in two free agents last year, and the free agents ended up leaving. You got to go fix that room at some point in time. You know what I mean? And this would probably be the best time to pick a defensive tackle because at the end of it, there's not too many of them this year that'll be able to help you out right now. And I feel like even though Peter Woods had a struggling year last year, I don't think it's going to always be like that for him. I still think that he has that juice, that fire, and I feel like that would be a good place for him to go and develop. The Panthers, I know a lot of the people are hearing this is where Kenyon Sadiq would probably come out, and the Panthers would kind of use him, especially because they need that help with, making sure that they have somebody to catch the ball outside of T-Mac, which they do. But I feel like they can get a wide receiver later on in the draft. Me personally, this is where I would see the safety coming or going off the board. Dylan. I feel like Dylan would be the one from Oregon. He would be the one to come off the board at this point. 6-foot guy, played at Oregon, really stout. I like his footwork, and I know a lot of people are saying that he would probably be the one to go to the Vikings, but that's only because of I'm drawing a blank on his name right now too, but that's only because old buddy played there, and they kind of just Slim Shady and Slim Shady type shit. But you know what I'm saying? No, that's not what we doing. We're not gonna match that up like that. I think the Vikings need to go defensive tackle, and the Panthers could definitely go safety at this point in time. Uh, the Cowboys, the Cowboys took McCoy first. At this point, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that the Cowboys would like a wide receiver. I think they should possibly go defensive line if it's me. Um, and if TJ Parker is there or Folk, if he's there, I'm picking one of them. At Folk is more of a project in my eyes. TJ kind of showed you what he can do in 2024. Again, everybody on Clemson's defense was garbage. So last year. So I'm not gonna fault him for that. But for the sake of this mock, I'm gonna go with Folk at 20 to the Cowboys. The Steelers at 21. Um, this is just funny because this is where everybody they were having conversations. Should the Steelers take Ty Simpson? Is that a third? I think the Steelers at this point in time should either be taking a wide receiver or an offensive lineman. But like I said, if it was me, I'm taking Denzel Boston. That's just me. I think that the Steelers quite literally showed you that even with Aaron Rodgers, if y'all don't have nobody to throw the ball to other than DK, he can't really make nothing shake. You got to surround him with some weapons to actually be able to get the best out of him, and especially with him being as old as he is, he's gonna definitely need that at this point in time. So yeah, at 21, I got them getting Denzel Boston. 22, the Chargers. I think we will be getting one of the tackles at this point in time, which would probably, or because nah, if Monroe Freeland is right there at Well, I say 22 for the Chargers. I think Mauro Freeland goes with the Chargers. And this is where we're probably finna see a run of the tackles go. Um, the Eagles, I feel like they also need to go ahead and um, re-up on their offensive tackle position. So this is where I'll probably see either Caleb Lomo or Spencer Fano go. I think Caleb Lomo will probably be the pick because they will most likely need a tackle only. I think Spencer Fano is more of like a do it all type of guy. So I would go Caleb Lomo for the Eagles, and then the Browns will end up getting Spencer Fano at 24. 25. I think the Bears need to kind of re up on their either cornerback, in my opinion, or safety. Cornerback or safety would be, yeah. Especially with it not being such a deep defensive lineman class. Actually, we took Peter Woods. I'm gonna go Caden McDaniels for the Bears. I think the Bears, if they can get the best out of if they can get the best out of him, I think that would be a good spot for him to land. And who is that? Yeah, Caden McDaniels. McDonald. Sorry. Not McDaniels. McDonald for the Bears. And then the Bills. Me personally, I think the Bills need to go all defense. All defense. Like, yeah, they need a wide receiver, but they need edge. They need a linebacker. They need cornerback. With all of these guys, you're not having too many like of the premium position on like the edge and the cornerback room. I think this is where you would probably start to see like either Zion Young or what is it, Colton Hood being looked at as one of the guys. But at this point in time, I think you should always look at a pass rusher. So I think Zion will probably be the pick at this point in time for the Bills. San Francisco at 27. Are we looking for not really a replacement, but Trent getting up there? He needs somebody to kind of help him out on the offensive line. You need wide receiver, safety. They need a lot of skill position help than they do in the trenches. In the trenches, I feel like they're doing pretty good, but I feel like you can't never have too many offensive linemen to kind of help you out. And so this is where I think we would get into the talks of like a surprise pick, like a Emmanuel or a Blake Miller. I think this is where we would start to get kind of like those surprise picks to start coming in. But at this point in time, I personally would go Colton Hood. Yeah. At this point in time, I would go Colton Hood because they still need cornerback help. So, yeah. At 27, I'm going to go Colton Hood to San Francisco. 28, the Texans. Personally, I would go D tackle. Do I think they're going to go? Do I think they're going to go D tackle? No, I think they're looking more towards maybe a cornerback, maybe defensive end. But personally, I would go D tackle, and the next D tackle that probably would be, probably next off people's board is Caleb Banks. So I think the Texans would end up getting Caleb Banks right here. The Chiefs, we still have Blake Miller, I believe, still left on the board at this point in time. So I feel like this is where they would end up getting their Blake Miller or their Max. I'm not finna butcher his last name, but the guy from Arizona State, they would end up picking one of those two guys. I think they would probably end up going with Max. Only because I like Max a little bit better. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm gonna pick for them at this point in time. The Dolphins, with the Dolphins still being on the board and still needing some needs, I think Brandon Casey. If I hope I'm not butchering his last name, but the cornerback from South Carolina, I think that's where he'll end up going right there. Um, if they don't go, if they don't go cornerback, I think they will end up picking Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety from Toledo. I think he will also be a good pick for them. Actually, that's what I am gonna pick for them. I feel like they can get a decent cornerback in the next round, especially with them still picking up high in the second round. So with that one, I'm gonna go with the safety, um, Emmanuel. Is that his name? Let me go check just to make sure. Yeah, Emmanuel. Emmanuel to the Dolphins, and then this is where you would possibly see one of your trades where the Cardinals do the trade back in. If the Cardinals trade back in and one of these last two spots being the Patriots or Seattle, they're getting Todd Simpson, and then Seattle will end up probably get another defensive lineman, which at this point in time will probably be Gabe Akers or Arme Thompson. So I'm gonna go with Gabe. Yeah, I'm gonna go Gabe Akers. Just for the sake of it. And that would be what the Seahawks would probably go for. If they don't go for, or if they're the ones who hit the trade with the Cardinals at the end of the first round, and like I said, Cardinals get Todd Simpson, the Patriots, I feel like they need wide receiver help, and they would end up getting KC Concepcion, which would still be a good pick for them. But yeah, y'all let me know how y'all feel about my mock draft and how I went, and dissected everything. I feel like I made some good picks. I feel like I made some good points on some key players, and this is just gonna be an exciting draft this year, especially with it not being so interior heavy. It's a lot of more like your outside guys, like your cornerbacks, your safeties, your linebacker. The linebacker room in this year's draft is stacked. Stacked. Wide receivers, stacked. Running backs, stacked. I think this is a good running back class too. Yeah, some pretty good running backs. So, you know, with not so many premium positions being the key pieces this year, this is just gonna be exciting. So, like always, thank y'all for watching. Number Z takes. Peace out. Let me know what y'all think. Like the video, subscribe, share. Let everybody know what's going on, man. Holla at y'all.